Hi, everyone. Welcome to the NEBOSH Online Conference 2022. The theme is Safe, Healthy, and Happy, and I'm excited to share my topic on Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, top tips to achieve your professional goals. My name is Cynthia Maua. I am the EHS Manager for M-KOPA Kenya Limited, a Pan-African company that sells products to the underserved markets in Africa. We currently are operational in 4 countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, and Ghana, and we are soon opening up in Zambia. Where did I begin? How did I get here? I'm looking forward to sharing my journey with you and how my personal life has impacted who I am today and how it has impacted my career journey. As they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I began my career a couple of years ago as after graduating from Kenyatta University in Kenya, having done conservation biology in my undergraduate. And so as I was in second year, one of our lecturers told us that there is a course, a career path that you might want to consider, and that is occupational safety and health. And I wrote it somewhere in my notebook because I did not enjoy some of the units that he was lecturing us at the time. And those really were quite intense in the field of ecology and all that. And I felt that my heart was inclined towards working with humans. And so when he mentioned that occupational safety and health would focus on the well-being of people, I got quite excited. And so I think I fell into safety by mistake, just by chance, and I am okay with it. I am enjoying what I do. So after graduating from my undergrad in conservation biology, immediately I went back to school and enrolled for a course in occupational safety and health. It was a very interesting season in my life where I got exposed to occupational safety and health, and in my second semester, I landed my first job in a consulting firm, and I got to interact with different clients in different industries. Worked there for a couple of months before getting a better role in a factory at the time in Kenya Breweries as a contractor. And the experience there was also amazing. I got to work in a factory for the first time and spent 2 years of my life there, which was very enriching to my career, and it laid my foundation in managing industrial health and risks, industrial risks, and promoting health and well-being amongst staff. Then at the time, I remember now after working for about 2 years, I got another role and I had to shift towns, and I moved from our capital city, Nairobi, went to Nakuru, worked in a factory again in a processing facility for about 2 years. It has been quite an interesting journey. And last year in 2021 March, I accepted my current role to work with a Pan-African company as an EHS manager. This was a leap of faith. And as they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I did not foresee myself being a safety manager in my late 20s. Working with nationalities of different backgrounds, working in a dynamic space in a company that is growing so fast. And currently we're setting up the first mobile assembly plant in Kenya, which is quite exciting. And every person's journey is different, but I really thought that I needed to share this for you to understand, where I come from and why I'm here today. One of the key nuggets that I will share with you about a career journey and getting to where you are, now that my topic is on feeling the fear and doing it anyway, as you can see on your screen. This was me in my former role. I was a coordinator, and at the time I struggled a lot with confidence. I was very fearful. It was my first time to lead an entire site as the contact person for EHS. And I was the first female to hold that role. I was quite young then, and I was very, very scared. Many times I thought that I was not enough, and I had little experience in training. I had little experience in managing industrial risks despite having worked somewhere else. At this time, I was the one running the show because I was a coordinator for that site. And at the time, I was reporting to the operations manager. So in that respect, I was expected to learn very fast and step up into my role just to share and educate my colleagues on matters EHS. This photo was taken at the time when COVID had hit the country in Kenya globally and also globally in March 2020. This time I was very, very scared. And I remember this particular day, I had just come from a plant inspection and I was wondering now what next. I was clueless about what COVID was all about. And most of us were in the health and safety space. And for me, I think it really made me reflect and ask myself, how will I become better? How will I advise my company? And the expectation that safety professionals know everything is, puts a lot of pressure on us as safety professionals. But I think as safety professionals, again, we are always on the learning curve. We learn new things every day. And over time, I started to accept myself as I am. I used to question myself and ask myself all the time, am I enough? Am I doing my best as a company? Despite hitting my KPIs, I used to think that I was not giving my best. I used to judge all myself, my mistakes. And I remember when I had to manage one incident at work, I thought that I was the person to blame. But I honestly felt that I had given myself. I used to think that maybe I should be more dictatorial. I should not use an empathetic approach. But I think that that was untrue. Those are lies that I was telling myself. Those were unconscious biases. Those were voices that I had heard from the society telling me that as a woman, being empathetic is a weakness, which I think it's not, because I think the future of safety is in empathy. As long as an individual is firm and strict, but then and balance it out with empathy, it's okay. And I think empathy is important because it will only make us more effective in our roles. And I had to eventually convince myself, and I keep also telling myself every time, that I am more than enough and I have nothing to prove to anyone. I am in the role that I'm in right now because I qualified and I'm here for a season to make an impact. And I think that applies to each and everyone else, that, you are more than enough. Once you convince yourself that, then nothing can stop you. In line with that, on personal acceptance, self-acceptance, I was very afraid. And as I had mentioned before, I had very little exposure in conducting trainings, facilitating trainings. And this photo here was taken mid this year during our country-wide sales training sessions in my current company. As you can see, I've come from far. Previously, when we would have training sessions, I would try my best to dodge them. And I think it just comes to a point where you have to face your fears. At some point in life, whether you like it or not, you will have to face your fears. If you have to grow, if you have to move to the next step in your role, in your career, then there's no other way around it. When you are planning for this particular training, I remember telling myself, I think I need to cancel. I need to say that I'm unwell. I need just to say that I am busy with other things at work and there's a lot of pressure. But I told myself, Cynthia, until when are you going to be afraid? Just go and do this training, deliver. And it was a 2 weeks training with the different departments. And it went pretty well. I came to enjoy the entire training. And I'll tell you right now that I can do it over and over again. Given a chance, I will still train and train and train. Yes, at some point, I struggled with this. I think right now, give me any topic, I'll do my research, I'll feel the fear and still do it anyway. So the question is, what is holding you back? What is that fear that you need to face? Is it stopping an unsafe act? Are you afraid that if you go and stop the works, you will have conflict with management? Yeah. So could it be that you need to gain a skill and upskill in that area of conflict management and communication? Is it that you are afraid of training like I was? Is it that you're afraid of interviewing for that role because you are not enough? I think so far in my career, I have always stepped up into roles that I knew very well that I had a lot to learn. There are roles that I have taken when I felt that I was not enough. Even being a manager for the first time in my late 20s was really challenging. I went through quite a lot emotionally, but I still had to face my fears. I told myself it's the first time happens to everyone. There's a first time for everything. There's a first time for you to work in a factory that you do not really know the risks. The principles of EHS remain the same across industry. They are cross-cutting. So you need to remain hungry and learn and just apply for that role. If you fail, it's okay. You'll pick yourself up, but you get better. Unless you face your fears, you will never be who you are. Fear just places limitations upon ourselves, and that should not be the case. In line with growth, I've always been passionate about self-development, growth. I'm always doing a short course on something. I'm always on YouTube watching videos on personal development, books that I read. And I have so far experienced a couple of things with respect to career that I think, would help anyone who is passionate about growth and who would want to move to the next level. Growth is uncomfortable, as we all know. It is messy. It's not beautiful. I think we get to see a glimpse of the beautiful sides of an individual success story, but we do not get to see the sleepless nights that they have to endure. In my current role as a first-time manager, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of fears. At the time, I was also struggling with communication. It was my first time to be exposed to strategic thinking and strategic decision making. I had to learn to make budgets, and I was struggling. I had to know how to interact with investors, as opposed to my previous roles where basically it was all about doing an implementation of strategy that has already been decided upon. And so right now, when it comes to the more responsibilities that are placed on me, it is fearful. I get very afraid at times when I'm faced with a new challenge, a new curveball that has been thrown upon towards my side. I get afraid for sure, but I think that is the beauty of growth, just waking up to go to work and realizing that it can not always be the same. We all have to grow and become better. And over the years, I'm learning to become more compassionate with myself, knowing that I'll make mistakes and that I am human. I'm only human. And I might have mastered one area of myself until growth comes and exposes that, hey, there's another weakness that I have. Before transitioning into my new role, I thought that I was the perfect communicator. I thought I was okay. But working with people from different backgrounds has helped me understand and know who I am in a different light. I know how I behave under pressure. I was not aware that I would go through months of experiencing anxiety and all that. I did not know that I could be that fearful. And I think stepping up will show you things that you did not, ugly truths that you may be unaware about yourself. But then with self-awareness comes growth. With self-awareness comes the opportunity to go beyond what you're used to, the opportunity to go beyond your comfort zone. And you will experience feelings that you had never thought you will. But that is the beauty of life. If you stay where you are, then you will never grow. And I think no one wants to stay where they are. The important thing is just to be compassionate about yourself and know that I'll do it better next time. You don't have to change every day. You don't have to, it will not change. Your life will not change in a day. It will change gradually. At this point in my career as well, I am in a reflective season, and in line with self-awareness, I'm beginning to appreciate other facets in my life. When I started out in my career, I thought it was just about career growth, and I was always on the move. I was asking myself, what next after this? What next? What next? And right now, the greatest thoughts that I have are around how am I living my life beyond my career, beyond who I am, my current title, who is Cynthia? So I think we need to ask ourselves, as much as we are growing in our roles, the best way for us to become to bring us, the only way we can bring our best selves forward is through integrating all the necessary elements in our lives. And I would highlight the 5 key elements that for me are a priority right now. And that starts with my spiritual life. I am more intentional about maintaining and growing my relationship with the higher being that I believe in. And so the question for you is, are you doing the same? If you have faith, because life is beyond us, whatever you believe in, are you taking time to grow that area of your life? Because when life gets difficult, when you have worries and concerns in life, then who are you rushing to beyond our human limitations? In line with that, I'll talk about social lives. Last year, when I was transitioning into a managerial role, it had to be the most difficult season of my life because it came with more responsibilities. It came with feelings that I had never anticipated. It came with challenges that I had never thought that I would experience. And it was only through the key friendships and the family networks that I have, that helped me stay sane and manage to go through that season successfully. Had I neglected that, then I would not be here today. And I'm now more intentional about growing my career, but also making sure that I bring along my friends and my family with it, just to be a wholesome human being, because no human being is unidimensional. We are all multidimensional, and there are different facets of our lives. I'm also working on my physical health. I am more intentional about taking walks, and with the future of work, with hybrid working, a couple of us are slowly developing physical conditions that are actually avoidable. We are getting back pains, we are getting, our mental health is also being affected because of maybe staying indoors for long. And I think if only we consider our physical health and take it seriously, then we will be able to bring our best selves to work, to bring our best selves to our families and to the society. And that is the only way that we're going to be impactful. I'm also very intentional about my mental and emotional health. And this, I do this by first documenting about how I feel. When I am from an emotional meeting or a meeting that has made me get either feel disappointed or scared, then I document that. Initially, because of fear, in a couple of times I would decide to stay silent during meetings and not voice out my opinion. And I think I have also had other women in my circle saying the same thing, that they would go through such challenges. And because of that, their opinions that could have made positive change in their workplace were never heard. They did not see the light of day. And when I am faced with that feeling, when I feel triggered and I feel fear, I document it after a meeting and say, okay, Cynthia, why were you scared? Is it because you did not have an answer to that question? Is it because you felt intimidated by a senior colleague? Is it because of an unconscious bias? And most of the times when you come to terms with what you're going through and acknowledge your fear and your feelings, then you will be able to address them. So for instance, if lately, if I realize that I'm scared to speak about something because I'm avoiding to be very controversial and I'm avoiding conflict, then I ask myself, how do I say it differently to be heard, yes, but also to bring a different opinion in the room that might not be very popular, but would be beneficial to the business. It's just the same in line with my mental health. I ask myself, have I taken enough time to rest off work? Have I taken time? How do I feel? What is in my mind lately? And right now, when we are thinking about mental health, as HSC people, and I mean safety and health professionals, it's not just about the physical hazards that we see in the workplace. Mental health is a key priority should be a key priority for us, because as we know, a couple of accidents happen because someone maybe was distracted, they were stressed. And even as we go through our career, we could be the people who are actually too stressed. Is your workload manageable? And when you are transitioning to different roles, then it would be good to ask yourself these tough questions. Am I going through a difficult time? Is it seasonal? Is it affecting my mental health? How can I get better? And because of that, last year in 2021, which was the most difficult transition because of becoming a manager for the first time, as I mentioned, I went through a lot of feelings that were not really pleasant. They were quite unpleasant. My mental health was not in a very, very good place, but I'm glad I overcame, and I also sought for help. So if you're going through difficult transitions or a difficult time in your workplace, then it's also important to seek for help. Check internally and ask yourself what you're going through, but also at the same time, seek for help externally. Is it therapy? Do you need rest? Is it that you need to lock yourself up somewhere and meditate? Do you need to take deep breaths? Is it an issue of upskilling? Are you afraid because you feel inadequate? And if it comes from within, then you can actually address that particular problem. Are you afraid? And I will also remind you that you are more than enough. And when you look at these 5 elements that I'm talking about, your spiritual health, your social health, your emotional health, your mental health and physical health, then all your goals need to be aligned. If you would want to become a senior director of safety somewhere, then all these pieces need to be put together. I don't think that there is an accurate work-life balance book out there. You will not get it there anyway, but just to manage your priorities right, all these elements have to be integrated together. They have to be in sync. And the question is, if you want to be healthy, are you doing the necessary things to be physically healthy? Do you work out? Do you take enough rest? How do you bring yourself? How are you showing up in life? And I think that now, for me, it's not just about career growth. It is beyond my career growth. It's beyond myself. And I would like all of us to think and see the bigger picture, to become safe individually first, healthy, that is mental health, our emotional health. We need to think about our physical health, and that will make us happy because we have really taken our self-care into consideration. And with that, then, I think that is success. Success for me would be working towards the small goals in life that would lead us to the next level, but ensuring that they are in sync. And still, as I had just alluded to earlier, you cannot do life alone. Only you can take responsibility for your happiness, but you can't do it alone. It is the great paradox of being human. Simon Sinek said that quote. He's one of the great leaders that I admired. Even as we build individual relationships, even as you take care of your individual self, remember that your relationship with yourself is important in how you show up to the world, but you cannot do it alone. If faced with a difficult situation at work, it could be an incident that you're managing. It could be a transition, like I have mentioned multiple times about my transition into management and from the different roles. You cannot do it alone. You have to bring your family with you and the wider safety community. Networks are very important. They can also help you get into different roles. They can help you. The networks that you have can also help you get mentally okay. If things are difficult, then who is your support system? When all is said and done, who are you beyond your career? Who is that person who will be there for you when you don't have that job or when you need to celebrate? And building a relationship with yourself does not mean neglecting people. It means working together with different people and embracing the diverseness of our human nature and working with friends, working with colleagues who will help you become better. And internally, from a work perspective, most of the safety agenda that I have tried to champion for, and currently working for a Pan-African company that is growing very fast. And when I joined, there was basically no safety culture, for lack of a better word, and we were struggling in that area. The only way that I think has made our growth come alive is because of our internal relationships. Are you working alone? As a safety person, safety is not your individual responsibility. Yes, it begins with you, it begins with each person, but you do not want to be seen as a safety police. You want to share your strategy, your agenda, your ideas, and have other people help you implement them. So the question is, at work, are you able to work with other departmental heads or the key stakeholders? Have you identified your key stakeholders? Because if you do not identify them and work with them, then it will be a cause for your stress. You will be a very, very unhappy safety and health professional, and that will also affect your mental and emotional well-being. So internally at work, are you able to reach out to the right people when you feel stuck? Do you have networks in the safety community for you to explain to them when you have a challenge? Remember, you cannot do life alone, and that is true for any person, regardless of career, regardless of industry. Externally, out of your organization, again, do you have mentors? And I would also recommend highly that get someone who has walked the journey ahead of you. And when you get that person, then be authentic and real with them and tell them what you are going through. And that way you will get help. I am who I am today because of the different people who have held my hand when things were hard. When we have experienced incidents, or when I feel like I'm lacking in a skill gap, at times I just reach out and say, hey, I'm going through a certain challenge at work. For instance, I'm unable to complete this incident investigation because of X, Y, Z. And in the same light, it's not just always about taking. The question is, are you also offering help to junior professionals, people whom you've gone ahead of? Because no one is too young to teach and no one is too old to learn. So it's a community of togetherness where you give and take, and they also do the same for you. Also very, very, very intentional about how we interact beyond work as well, not just within the safety space, but also other stakeholders who might also be key into ensuring that we succeed and thrive in our workplaces and create safe spaces, healthy spaces, and happy people. And in line with that, I would be very keen to talk about some of the key top tips that have helped me deliver safety excellence and improve safety performance in all the organizations that I've worked for. So far, I have held different roles, from a consultant to a first-time manager. And I think that there are principles that we cannot ignore, and they are cross-cutting despite the industry, organization, or country that we work for. The first one would be for us to see the bigger picture. Most of the times, and especially when I was in my first few roles, the first two roles as a safety practitioner, I was only seeing life and an organization from my safety lens. But I think it's time for us safety professionals to see the bigger picture. It has been very helpful for me to think about what organization I work for and what kind of strategy does it have as a business, because before I am a safety professional, I'm an employee, and the company has its profit and loss structure. They are there to make profit. And for me to drive a safety agenda, then I have to first be in sync with and understand what is the company trying to achieve. So for instance, if you're in a factory that manufactures alcohol, or you're in a factory that manufactures computers or mobile phones like I am, or in an agricultural setup, what is the organizational goal? Do you understand, or you are working in a silo as a safety practitioner and all you do is say, we need to do this, and if you're not compliant, you have to start from that first step. Okay, I work for organization XYZ. I am the safety person. I am the safety coordinator. And my role is to support the business to drive profit in a sustainable way. Once you have that understanding, then when you are approaching the senior management to drive your agenda, to share your suggestions, then you come to them as a friend, as a partner, a safety business partner. Initially, and especially in my first new role, I remember when I went for a first meeting with, and I was trying to drive a serious agenda. I had seen a very significant risk in my business, and I went there very authoritative. I was quite, pushy. I felt like I was trying to bulldoze. And trust me, that strategy did not work because I did not understand the limitations. Most of the time, companies have budgets for certain things, for safety and all these departments. If you do not understand how your organization works or who is the key driver to helping you close out certain key gaps, then you'll fail. My suggestion was to close out that specific risk within, immediately. But then I came to understand how difficult that was. But eventually, I managed to make traction in that area. We haven't yet finished the whole process, but I'll tell you, had I used a different approach and I learned my lesson then, I think this would have been closed out immediately because I was too strict. It's okay to be strict, but also to understand that there are certain elements that can be closed out differently. Just because you think that this is a solution, can you also try to listen and come off as a partner and not as an antagonist? Most of the time, safety professionals are known as safety polices. And I felt like I was a safety police that day, and my idea was shot down, and I really felt bad. It made my anxiety get worse. But again, I do not regret going through that experience because it made me understand communication and grow my communication skills. So if right now I come across an audit finding whilst conducting my audits, or if an external party realizes that we have a gap in our organization, I would not go try to bulldoze. I will package my information in a simple way for people to understand and come off as this is a risk for the business and this is the benefits that we will get if we close out this. And as safety people, again, we cannot work in isolation. And that's what I was talking about. How do you build internal relationships for you to drive your agenda? Because if you don't do that, it's going to be a failure, or you're going to take too long to close out a simple action just because you came off as too authoritative. I would also, the second thing that is in line with the bigger picture, now that you are in a specific organization, you understand the products and services that the company offers, you understand the maturity level of that company with respect to health and safety, understanding the Bradley's curve. Are you in the compliance stage? Are you in the independent stage? Are you in the interdependent stage? So where are you? Once you understand where you are, then you will be able to map out your roadmap to excellence. So if, say, you are in the compliance stage and you want to move to the independent stage, then what key steps do you need to do? Who are the key stakeholders in your organization to help you drive your agenda? And once you get that clear, then it will be easy for you to move. Most of the times you just get into organizations without a clear roadmap. You look at the legal compliance obligations and that is the end, or what you already know. But the question is, are you learning out of work and getting experience from best practice? It's also in line now with collaboration, which is my third point. And I would insist, once you see the bigger picture and are able to focus and define your goal, it's not just about hitting the KPIs. I think the bigger picture would be to grow these sustainable businesses with respect to safety and health at work, because that is where we are headed, the future of work. And safety being a fundamental right for every person. So the question is, what key risks are there? Can you be able to map them out and fill them in a risk register, and let the key stakeholders know, the senior management team know, that these are the key risks, we need to close them out. This is what our risk exposure, and this is our remediation plan. This is what we need. This is where we are stuck, and understand that some of these things might be complex and you might actually need support. If you are stuck, then you can always collaborate with other team members. In the same light, the person you report to, your line manager, will help you to become who you are supposed to be. Let them understand what they are doing. And some of our safety professionals do not report to people who are safety professionals. It could be you're reporting to HR or to a compliance head who perhaps does not have safety background. Then that also gives you a unique platform to know how to become a better communicator and collaborate with them, because you will use language that would be simplistic to understand. Most of the times in my initial approach was to quote sections of the law. I don't think that works. I don't think it works. It just needs for you to say, hey, we are having challenge in, say, the production area. This is it, and this is what we are going to lose if we don't close it out. As we move along the journey, I have mentioned about mistakes that we do, in one particular one that I remember from my last year's experience. I think it was around September. And I was very, very frustrated. But then I had to learn from my mistake. I had to learn to become better in my communication. And I know I'll still make mistakes in future. Once I change roles or once I get promoted, I am human. We are all human. What are you learning from your mistakes? If you have a particular incident at work, have you done then investigations, or are you planning to do more thorough investigations next time so that we do not have such incidents? And in the same light, as we learn, we grow. As we learn, we become better individuals. And that speaks into my final point on continuous improvement. And with continuous improvement, we understand that we are human again, and every organization is at a different safety maturity level that we need to understand and work together with them as the experts to grow them to where they want to go, or where you want them to go as the company safety advisor. And with that in mind, knowing that you have never arrived, and even when we get to that interdependent stage, I don't think that there is a company that will ever say that they really have completely eliminated the risks, because as long as a business is operating, then there are risks that will always be present. And when we achieve what we have always envisioned to achieve and feel that we have arrived, then that is also a risk. You do not want to work in a place where the company is so rigid and they think that their safety management system is the best. There is always room for continuous improvement. And as I come to the tail end of my career talk, or my safety talk today, I think I'd encourage all of us to think about, how do we become better safety and health professionals? What courses do we need to do? Is it that maybe you need a certificate in construction? What is your niche? What do you want to become? How do you first become excellent? Because excellence starts from an individual perspective and then has a ripple effect to the organization. It has to start with you. Safety excellence begins with an individual. It begins with self-awareness, knowing that you are enough, knowing that there's room for improvement for you as an individual, and that it's changing roles does not necessarily mean that you're going to be successful. If you have a particular weakness in communication, then it will follow you to the next role. So before you apply for that position, I do not say that you don't apply if you know you have a certain weakness, but the question is, are you working to consciously improve that area that you're struggling in? And are you also engaging the right people to grow and become better? I think right now, as safety professionals, we are at a very unique space, a digital space, where you can manage to reach someone online and ask them, hey, look, I'm struggling in this particular area. On LinkedIn, there are various platforms, there are various conferences that you can attend like this one, and hoping that we'll be able to get at least some nuggets that will help us grow and become better practitioners to make our workplaces safe for our colleagues and the community, as well as everyone else who might be impacted by the business that we do. And then we'll be able to create a happy environment for each and every one of us. And so the question is, has some of the things that I've mentioned resonated with you? I'll be very curious to know which ones those are, and what are you going to do differently starting today to overcome your fears? What is it that you need to do whilst feeling afraid? Is it a role that you need to apply for? Is it stopping an unsafe act? What is it? Mention your fears. Let us know what you're struggling with, and we'll be there to give you support. We'll be there to give you help. What is it? That is the question that I have for you. After this talk, then what are you going to do differently? What will make you excel in your workplace? What is that? How are you going to do it afraid? What are you going to do differently, as I asked? And I hope that this has been impactful, and that as maybe if we ever get a chance to converse again about a similar topic, then I'll be happy to hear that we have made progress in certain areas relating to work. Should you be having any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you so much.